After studying this module, you would be able to learn about the key concepts of the person-centered approach to counseling, understand the counseling process involved, examine the counseling techniques, procedures and intervention strategies or applications of Rogers' approach, and evaluate the contributions of the person-centered perspective in counseling. Carl Rogers, from the year 1902 to 1987, more than anyone else, is associated with theories of counseling and psychotherapy that emphasize emotions. As much a philosophy as a treatment approach, Rogers' person-centered counseling was built on a strong humanistic base. Humanism views people as capable and autonomous, with the ability to resolve their difficulties, realize their potential, and change their lives in positive ways. The person-centered clinician seeks to build a relationship with clients that will promote a deeper self-understanding, enable them to become more authentic and actualized, and empower them to use their strengths and flourish. Humanistic therapies, especially Carl Rogers' person-centered therapy, changed the way psychotherapy had been conducted. Up until that time, psychoanalysis, with its focus on the unconscious, and behavioral counseling, which focused on stimulus and response, were the only methods in widespread practice. In both methodologies, the role of the therapist was traditionally seen as the expert. Carl Rogers turned the tables and focused on clients as the experts on their own lives. Rogers in 1961 wrote, "It is the client who knows what hurts, what directions to go, what problems are crucial, what experiences have been deeply buried." Perhaps one of Carl Rogers' greatest contributions to the field of counseling and psychotherapy was teaching us to listen with sensitivity and caring and without judgment. Rogers' optimistic view of the person and his belief in the person's innate striving for self-actualization changed the focus of psychotherapy from one of pathology to that of viewing clients as people who come to therapy or counseling to help themselves live more fully and function in more satisfying ways. His synthesis of humanism with the scientific method revolutionized psychology, turning it from an art form into a science.
Intervention strategies of the person centered approach. Two general areas related to the therapeutic intervention techniques are how to be genuine and specific behaviors that have consistently been identified with communication of the core conditions. To be genuine, counselors need to look closely at themselves before deciding how to be or what to do. Obviously, one cannot be genuine by thinking, saying, or doing what someone else does. Knowing oneself then becomes critical. It allows the practitioner's actions and words to be congruent with the way he really is, while at the same time helping the practitioner understand the client's needs. Person centered counselors need to be knowledgeable about themselves and reasonably comfortable with their true self as known to them. They must be more congruent than their clients so that they give more to their clients. One clear way to deal with these issues for practitioners is to seek quality helpful relationships, including counseling, for themselves and to work as hard on their own continued growth as they ask their clients to work. Being genuine does not mean sharing every thought or feeling with the client. Such a tactic would simply take the focus of the client and put it on the practitioner, which is not a part of the person centered helping or any other type of helping. An appropriate approach involves being a helpful, attentive, caring person who is truly interested in the client and able to demonstrate that interest and involvement. Genuineness simply means that the counselor be herself or himself in the relationship, avoiding presenting a facade or acting with contrivance because he/she is a therapist. The counselor must be able to accept all of his/her own feelings, even those that may be inappropriate to the relationship. Genuineness means that within the relationship, the counselor is freely and deeply himself or herself, with his or her actual experience accurately represented by his/her awareness of himself or herself. Have you experienced the type of situation in which an acquaintance says, "I know how you feel," and you know very well the words coming from this near stranger are nothing more than words? Not only do you reject the words, but you also lose faith in the person's honesty. The same person might have said, "I hardly know you, but if your experience is anything like my own loss, it must hurt a great deal." The second statement recognizes the reality of the two different people. It does not try to indicate more understanding than is reasonable to believe. There are as many genuine statements or actions as there are people and situations. The right statement or action matches the person centered practitioners with the unique situation with the client at a given time. Active listening. Active listening and its reflection of content and feelings are emphasized in person centered counseling. Demonstrating empathy for the client requires highly attentive and interactive listening skills. Counselors must be able to demonstrate complete attention. The physical actions most common to this are facing clients squarely, leaning towards them, and making good eye contact. This position and the use of facial and body expressions that relate to the client's comments put practitioners and clients in physical contact. After putting themselves in the best possible position to listen, practitioners must hear and see what is communicated and turn the bits and pieces into a holistic picture. They use both the words and the actions of the client to develop an understanding of the content and feelings being presented. Taking in information is the initial step in active listening. Practitioners must then reflect the content and feelings of clients back to them for their listening to have action value. I hear you saying, "So you are feeling," and "you seem to be feeling," because of, are examples of the ways practitioners can explore with the client how accurate their empathy truly is. Only in this way can they jointly discover understanding and misconceptions at one level and move on to the greater understanding. Even the genuine counselor will not always have a full understanding of the client's worlds and will make varied types of mistakes in trying to reflect it. The process of active listening helps both clarify the content and feelings of the situation and is a learning process for each. Practitioners who can treat their own mistakes and growth during this learning process in a genuine manner as a natural part of life help clients accept their uncertainties and weaknesses, content and feelings. The first steps in the empathy exploration process tends to be recognition and reflection of the actual words stated and the feelings that are most obvious. As client and counselor get to know each other better, An effective practitioner becomes better able to move beyond these surface interactions to see and convey feelings that clients do not even recognize they are expressing. Reflection is a process that identifies people's emotions and experiences and feeds back to them the underlying or important meaning that those emotions and experiences have for them. Reflections using words different from those used by the client give another perspective on emotions and experiences. Reflections are intended to deepen people's awareness of their feelings and experiences, promote thought and insight, let people know that they are heard and understood, and encourage further discussion and self exploration. Reflections of feelings differ from reflections of meaning. The following examples clarify the nature of these two types of reflections. Client: for the first time, I handed in my assignment on schedule. Even though I worked very hard and followed the plan we developed, I did not think I could do it, but I did. Reflection of the feeling: I can hear that you feel proud of yourself. Reflection of meaning: this sounds like a real milestone for you. Both of the interventions are potentially effective because they do not simply repeat the client's words but use language that enhances his/her awareness and demonstrates that the clinician is attuned to the client. The reflection of feeling contains the word proud, which labels the client's emotions. The reflection of meaning captures the significance this experience has for the client, succeeding at least once in overcoming his or her procrastination. Although the two interventions probably will take the sessions in different directions, both reinforce the client's accomplishments, help him or her feel good about his or her success, and raise his or her awareness of how he or she achieved this milestone and could generalize his or her positive behaviors to the other experiences. Although reflections, as well as communicating empathy, may seem simple and straightforward, formulating accurate responses that can easily be understood and absorbed by a client is challenging, even to experienced clinicians. What if a reflection is not on target and does not really capture the client's emotions? That happens to the best clinicians, no matter how carefully they are listening. Usually, a reflection that is not accurate does not harm as long as the client and clinician relationship is open and supportive enough so that the client can correct the reflection. Consider the following interaction. Client: for the first time, I handed in my assignment on schedule. Even though I worked very hard and followed the plan we had developed, I did not think I could do it, but I did. Counselor: sounds like you feel elated that you were able to work so hard. Client: well, not exactly. I usually work hard, but most of the time it just feels like I am spinning my wheels. Somehow, this time I set a reasonable schedule for myself. I did not get into that perfectionist thinking. I did a good enough job, and I was able to finish on time. Counselor: so, hard work was not really what made the difference. It was setting realistic expectations for yourself that led to your success. Client: you are right. Although the counselor missed the mark slightly in his or her first intervention, the intervention was still helpful. It promoted the client to think about what had contributed to his or her success, express that to the counselor, and here a second intervention that demonstrated the understandings he wanted. In addition, exchanges such as these can give people practice in making themselves clear to others and ensuring that they are understood. Immediacy. Many of the most powerful interactions are those in which the content and feelings involved relate directly to the immediate situation between the client and the counselor. In other words, they depend on immediacy. The mirror analogy fits here well, as the mirror provides immediate feedback and it would be much less useful to you each day if it only showed how you looked several hours or years earlier. Recognition, understanding, and use of feelings are seen as major problems for clients from the person centered perspective. Immediacy provides a here and now approach to the relationship with the practitioner in general and to the feelings in particular. The relationship between the client and the practitioner is considered the most important therapeutic factor, in part because it is available for immediate examination. Therefore, the feelings that both client and practitioner are currently experiencing are often the most therapeutic source available. Statements that receive primary emphasis are ones such as, "How are you feeling now?" and "Your statements make me feel." On the other hand, statements seen as less therapeutically useful might be like, "Why did you feel that way?" "What did the other person think?" "What led you to believe this?" A major reason for emphasis on the here and now in person centered approach is the ability of the client and practitioner to together verify, check, and explore the immediate reactions. Statements or feelings from the past make use of only the client's perspective. Thus, the practitioner has a reduced opportunity to be a vibrant part of the client's experience. Appropriate self disclosure. In truly genuine relationships, clients see relevant parts of the practitioner's phenomenological world as well as their own world. Appropriate self disclosure allows clients to compare their view of the world with the view of another individual whom they come to trust and value as a significant human being. Under non threatening circumstances, such comparisons give clients the chance to review and revise their views based on information that they might otherwise not have had available or that was too threatening to accept. A supportive relationship allows clients forward movement to try out new thoughts and behaviors based on the comparative information to develop at the rate and in a manner most appropriate for them. Personalized counselor actions. One of the greatest misconceptions among new practitioners is that simplistic listening and reflecting are all the person centered counselor does. This reaction to his concept of an evolving and personalized theory was a major frustration to Rogers throughout his professional life. Rogers used his own thoughts and personality in many creative ways, just as all quality, person centered counselors do. These are the aspects of counseling that appear as metaphor, humor, confrontation, and at the times even interpretation or directiveness. Many practitioners now use Rogers' relationship development model as the foundation on which to build other cognitive, behavioral, or emotional approaches. Boy and Pine's view is that a true person centered approach will have a consistent foundation, but that the full range of the relationship must build on the unique aspects of the counselor, the client, and their personalized relationship together. Empathic responding. Empathy and empathic responding on the part of the counselor help to facilitate a compassionate and safe environment in which a person can feel free to explore deeper emotions. Rather than a technique that counselors use, Rogers considered empathy to be a process or a way of being with another person. This kind of sensitive, active listening is exceedingly rare in our lives. We think we listen, but we rarely do. We listen with real understanding, true empathy. Yet, listening of this very kind is one of the most potent forces for change that I know. Empathy is effective for a variety of reasons. First, it helps to normalize a person's feelings. By experiencing empathy, people no longer feel that they are isolated or alone in their experiences. Empathy also promotes examinations of the client's subjective experience. Hearing their feelings spoken back to them invites an exploration of the nuances of those feelings. And finally, empathy helps the client create new meaning. And yet, empathy alone is not sufficient. Empathy must be experienced, reflected, and accepted by the client in order for it to be meaningful. Empathic responding begins with the counselor, who must first understand the client's feelings and accurately express those feelings to the client. Then, the client must recognize the empathetic attunement. All three steps in the process are necessary. Rogers wrote, being empathetic is a complex, demanding, and strong, yet also a subtle and gentle way of being. Although there are many different ways to rate empathy, we will focus on the three types of responses. End responses in which no empathy is expressed, either no emotion was implied in the client's statement, or the counselor was completely off track in the reflection. I. Interchangeable responses in which the counselor captures the essence of what the client said, but nothing was added. Such responses can be a direct repetition of the client's words or an accurate rephrasing of client's words. Interchangeable responses are considered to be empathic, and research indicates they are helpful to clients. E. Empathic responses. This more valuable empathic response is at the outer border of the client's awareness. Sometimes empathic reflections are followed up with a question to clarify the client's internal experience. Example: Client: I am so sick of fighting this disease, I just want to give up. Response 1: You don't look so sick to me. Response 2: You're really tired of it all and just want to stop fighting. Response 3: You've been battling this for a long time and you are wondering what it would be like if you just did not do it anymore. Notice how the first response lacks empathy, does not focus on the client, and rather than uniting the client and the counselor in shared experiencing, actually inserts distances between them. The second response is an accurate and interchangeable response to what the client said. This type of response can help clients to clarify feelings, hear their own words resonate back to them, and give them time to think about their next response. The third response focuses more on the person's felt meaning. It is noticeably more poignant and more at the leading edge of what the client has implied in the statement. I just want to give up. The role of assessment. Assessment is frequently viewed as a prerequisite to the treatment process. Many mental health agencies utilize a variety of assessment procedures, including diagnostic screening, identification of clients' strengths and liabilities, and various tests. It may seem that assessment techniques are foreign to the spirit of the person centered approach. What matters, however, is not how the counselor assesses the client, but the client's self assessment. From a person centered perspective, the best source of knowledge about the client is the individual client. For example, some clients may request certain tests as a part of the counseling process. It is important for the counselor to follow the client's lead in the counseling process. In the early development of non directive counseling, Rogers recommended caution in using tests or in taking a complete case history at the outset of counseling. If a counseling relationship began with a battery of tests, he believed clients could get the impression that the counselor would be providing the solutions to their problems. But Rogers admitted that tests might have a place, especially if they were used toward the conclusion of counseling and if the client requested them. Person centered counseling applied to the case of Sood. Sood's autobiography indicates that he has a fairly clear idea of what he wants for his life. The person centered counselor lies on his self report of the way he views himself rather than on a formal assessment and diagnosis. She is concerned with understanding him from his internal frame of reference. Sood has stated goals that are meaningful for him. He is motivated to change and seems to have sufficient anxiety to work toward these desired changes. The person centered counselor thus has faith in his ability to find his own way and trusts that he has within himself the necessary resources for personal growth. She encourages Sood to speak freely about the discrepancy between the person he sees himself as being and the person he would like to become, about his feelings of being a failure, being inadequate, or being unmanly, about his fears and uncertainties, and about his hopelessness at times. She strives to create an atmosphere of freedom and security that will encourage Sood to explore the threatening aspects of himself. To do this, the counselor listens intently not only to Sood's words but also to the manner in which he delivers his message. She attempts to understand what it must be like to live in his world. She conveys to him the basic attitudes of understanding and accepting, and through this positive regard, he may well be able to drop his pretenses and more fully and freely explore his personal concerns. Sood has a low evaluation of his self worth. Although he finds it difficult to believe that others really like him, he wants to feel loved. I hope I can learn to love at least a few people, most of all women. He wants to feel equal to others and not have to apologize for his existence. Yet, most of the time, he is keenly aware that he feels inferior. If his counselor can create a supportive, trusting, and encouraging atmosphere, Sooth is likely to feel that she is genuinely interested in him. He can use the relationship to learn to be more accepting of himself with both his strengths and limitations. He has the opportunity to openly express his fears of women, of not being able to work with people, and of feeling inadequate. He can explore how he feels judged by his parents and by authorities. He has an opportunity to express his guilt, that is, his feelings that he has not lived up to his parents' expectations and that he has let them and himself down. He can also relate his feelings of hurt over not having ever felt loved and wanted. He can express the loneliness and isolation that he so often feels, as well as the need to dull these feelings with alcohol or drugs. In relating his feelings, Sooth is no longer totally alone, for he is taking the risk of letting his counselor into his private world. In doing so, how will he be helped? Through the relationship with her, Sooth gradually gets a sharper focus on his experiencing and is able to clarify his own feelings and attitudes. He sees that he has the capacity to master his own strengths and make his own decisions. In short, the counseling relationship tends to free him from his self defeating ways. Because of the caring and faith he experiences from his counselor, Sooth is able to increase his own faith and confidence in his ability to resolve his difficulties and discover a new way of being. Counseling will be successful if Sooth comes to view himself in a more positive light. He will be more sensitive to messages within himself and less dependent on confirmation from others around him. He will gradually discover that there is someone in his life whom he can depend on himself. The following questions will help you think about how you would counsel Sooth, knowing what you do of Sooth. How much faith do you have that he has the capacity to find his own way without active intervention on your part as a counselor? How would you describe Sooth's deepest struggles? What is his world like from his vantage point? In working with Sooth from the person centered perspective, how do you imagine you would function without relying on structured techniques? To what extent do you think that the relationship you could develop with Sooth would help him move forward in a positive direction? What, if anything, might get in your way, either with him or in yourself, in establishing a counseling relationship?
A summary of this module is as follows. Rogers and person centered counseling have made an immeasurable contribution to counseling and psychotherapy. His views of the self and the role of the practitioner in counseling revolutionized the counseling process. His version of the therapeutic alliance and a genuine, supportive, accepting, empathic counselor provided an important alternative to the anonymity of the Freudian analysts and the directiveness of the early behaviorists. Rogers humanized clinicians and taught us that the clinician's use of the facilitative conditions in a positive therapeutic alliance is the most important strategy for change. Person-centered counseling can be easily integrated with other types of therapy and it has application not just for the counseling profession but in schools, government, and the workplace. Henderson et al. 2007. Research and theory strongly suggest that an integration into treatment of those conditions developed and espoused by Rogers is essential to development of a healthy therapeutic alliance as well as to treatment effectiveness. The genuineness, acceptance, and empathy that characterize person centered treatment have left their mark on the field and have been incorporated into a wide range of other approaches to treatment. Person centered therapy has fundamentally shaped the current practice of therapy in general and of experiential therapy in particular. Several new experiential approaches that have grown out of person centered theory include focusing, developed by Eugene Geldin, a student of Rogers who later founded the Focusing Institute, and emotion focused therapy, also known as process experiential therapy, developed by Leslie Greenberg and colleagues. Person centered counseling is also at the core of motivational interviewing, which was originally developed by Miller and Rolnick in 2002 to promote behavioral change in people who misused drugs. Motivational interviewing has since grown into motivational enhancement therapy for use with a variety of client problems and populations. In addition, person centered principles have been used in career counseling, play therapy, couples and family counseling, group therapy, and management training. Student centered schools have been developed based on these principles. Rogers' ideas form the basis for Thomas Jordan's parent effectiveness training in 1970 and used in training well over 1 million parents, teachers, adolescents, and leaders throughout the world. Organizations such as the Center for Studies of the Person in La Jolla, California, and the World Association for Person-Centered and Experiential Psychotherapy and Counseling continue to promote and teach Rogers' ideas. Person-centered therapy has fundamentally shaped the current practice of therapy in general and of experiential therapy in particular. Posse, Greenberg, and Elliott 2008. Several new experiential approaches that have grown out of person-centered theory include focusing, developed by Eugene Gendlin, a student of Rogers who later founded the Focusing Institute, and emotion-focused therapy, also known as process experiential therapy, developed by Leslie Greenberg and colleagues.